16, you were in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
so I, as somebody that's constantly in a wheelchair, how did you, how did you find that?
It's interesting, man. I mean, for me, I think um, it was very difficult, a lot of pain. Obviously, there's still a degree of pain that I deal with on a daily basis. But I think that once I realized through extensive physiotherapy and like the operations that I'd had when I was younger that I could stand up and use, because I use two sticks now all times. Once I realized I could do that, then I really pushed myself to do that. But it does get quite tiring in the wheelchair. I remember things being, I got pushed around a lot in my younger days. You know, I used to be able to relax in my chair quite a bit, but then I also did a lot of pushing around myself. It was a different time. It was a different time. A lot of pain. You know, a lot of operations, a lot of like procedures and stuff. So I sort of look back at that period of time as kind of like a different life, you know. I remember it was the day of my A levels that I actually stood up and decided not to go back into the wheelchair full time. So I would have been 16. And yeah, I've just never really gone back, except for the time I did a 10K and my mum came along. I did like a 10K for Jane Tomlinson in York. And my mum came along and bought this tiny wheelchair that I had when I was like a teenager back, and made me sit in it to have a rest after I did the 10K. But that is the only time since the age of 16 that I've been in a chair. But yeah, it was an interesting time, man. Different time in my life, very, very different. You know, just being kind of looked after a lot, you know, hospitals, things like that. And that's obviously like very different to the way my life is now. Fortunately enough, you know, being able to live, you know, independently and have, you know, and travel and things like that. So yeah, it was a challenge for sure, but I was lucky enough. You know, there are other people, of course, that aren't lucky enough to, you know, they excel in the chair and they do some incredible work, and the chair is a part of their life, but it doesn't define them. And for me, because I could get up and out of the chair, and I had the privilege to be able to do that, you know, once I'd had my physiotherapy and once I discovered that, you know, I could walk around, you know, albeit in a little bit of pain. You know, I realised that I could do that. You know what I mean? So I decided to quit the chair full time from 16, and I've never looked back. But that's very much because I am able to do that, and I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. You know.
So, so what, what is your disability?
Cerebral palsy. Cerebral
What,
palsy.
if you don't mind me asking, do you know what type of cerebral palsy is?
It's not the higher kind of level. It's got, I guess it's kind of mild for me. I've got joint pain, consistent joint pain all day, every day. Um, tightness of nerves. There's so many different symptoms. I mean, what I'll do next time we have a conversation, I'll get a list together, man. But there's a bunch of different stuff. For me, I'm quite lucky enough that because of the physiotherapy I've had and because of the exercises I do every day, I'm able to keep a degree of movement. But if I did sort of, you know, if I spent too much time in the wrestling kitchen and spent too much time doing the podcast, sat in my chair, I'd probably seize up and not be able to get back up again. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When it comes, because I have cerebral palsy as well. And my type of cerebral palsy is spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. So,
yeah, that sounds. Yeah, the spastic diaplegia is
yeah,
how I was diagnosed. Yeah,
so, so as we've already mentioned, up until the age of 16, you were in a wheelchair.
yeah.
So, so did you develop natural laziness?
Yeah, I think so, Anthony. Yeah, I think I did, man. You know, it's interesting, you know, you using the phrase that you were diagnosed with kind of triggers stuff in me, you know what I mean? I was very lucky, even though I had this diagnosis, the spastic diaplegia, and even though a lot of people told me I wasn't going to do, you know, I was told all the things you get told when, you know, especially because I grew up I was a young, I was a baby in the 80s. So I was told, you're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to have a girlfriend. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. And so I think for the first part of my life, being told all of those things, I kind of fed into it. You know what I mean? Like I got used to being looked after, even I was in a lot of pain all the time. So I got used to being looked after. So I definitely got lazy for a long period of time, but that was because I have a very supportive, a very loving family around me and good people, around me to support me. But I think, for the first period of my life, when I was dealing with all the kind of pain and getting used to it, I definitely got very lazy, man. Absolutely.